Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome back to Heirloom Afternoon. It is Tuesday, and that means we are here live to you through the power of the internet with Heirloom Afternoon. I am your host, Cheryl Muppin Whited. You can call me Muppin. I am here in beautiful downtown Paducah, Kentucky. And today, like always, we are here live to you Tuesday at 12 noon. If you can hear me, please give me a little thumbs up so I know that my audio is working properly. How are you doing today? I'm doing wonderfully well. Thank you for asking. I hope you are doing well as well it's gonna be one of those days. It is Tuesday, and I am here on our lovely set here in downtown Paducah, and I have been visiting the local antique shops, and I have some beautiful antique and vintage linens to show you. Today, like I said, we have been shopping, and the dangerous part about downtown Paducah is that there are antique shops within like my own same block of businesses. So there, that it's dangerous. And also, the wonderful thing about downtown Paducah is that we there are a lot of sewing related items in these antique shops because they know that so many quilters and sewists come and visit the town. So got some things I would love to show you. And I also want to talk about some of the care tips that I have come across for some of these vintage linens. So if you were here on Friday for Muppin Sewing Emporium, you would know that I did some unboxing of some vintage linens on that show. These are in addition to those. So if you watched us on Muppin Sewing Emporium, which is our Friday night show, these are actually different than the ones that I showed on that show. So if you are ready for all of this fun, let's get started. Here I am. Oh, there's my mouse. The first thing that I found is initially I thought this was a pillow sham, like a pillow cover sham, and it is not. It is actually just a mini quilt, which, I have to say, like mini quilts, this probably was intended to eventually become some kind of pillow cover, but it never got that far. It is completely finished all on its own, but it is not a there's no like pillow sham part to this at all. So this, as you can see, this block here is called Cathedral Window. And the reason it's called that is because it's to resemble looking at through like stained glass. It is a dimensional sewing technique. It's very, very, very old, and it's been around, easily since the late 1800s, early 1900s. So, as you can see, how this is generally constructed, because there's a lot of different ways to make a cathedral window block, is these sections, these patterned fabrics. They are set in, and then the edge of another block is folded over and it is hand sewn down. And that is how these fabrics are captured inside. So as we can see here on the back, the attachment that was used here to keep this block, this edge down, is what has quilted it all the way through. So this is completely sewn by hand. As you can see here, these are not machine stitches. These are hand stitches. And I found this little quilt in the in a quilt or in an antique shop down the street. These are more than likely shirtings, and this particular fabric right here, I don't know if, can you guys see that? It's got those little, it's like little fuzzy raised, like little fuzzy daisies here, and there's two patches of that same fabric. So is this, super, super old? I'm not an expert in dating the fabrics. I will say I don't think the fabrics are terribly old. I would think that this is probably, 1950s and older. So I wouldn't say that this is like from the early 1900s or anything. But it is a dimensional sewing technique, and as you can see here, the folding over of the squares here that make this edging. And this is how they're constructed, so to speak, in blocks. So very interesting little quilt. Again, it's not a pillow sham. I thought I was getting, like, I picked it up and I thought, oh, this will be a little pillow sham, but it's not. It's a complete little mini quilt, which I absolutely adore and can't wait to hang up in one of my many sewing room studio spaces. So again, if you know me, you know I like those dimensional quilt things, and so this was really exciting. It is a little yellowed, and you can see a lot more of that yellowing here in the back, right? Because you can see this section has had more contact with either something it's been laying on or just in general. But these areas here where the fabric is the thinnest, right? There's only one layer of fabric there. Because it's been sort of like puffed to the front, this has been laying on either some, maybe this was laying on a piece of wood, or was stored in contact with something that discolored this muslin type fabric. So it does, if it looks yellowed on the camera, that's a good accurate representation, because it has these areas that have been in contact with either, some surface it's been laying on has discolored the fabric in those sections. And initially I thought, oh, well, that's just, it's the light color passing, there's not another layer of fabric under there. But if I did even put a lighter fabric under here or a piece of paper, it is still definitely discolored. Now, some of that will never come out of a fabric like this, and that's just acid and other environmental things happening here. So that some of this coloration is going to be permanent. It's never going to come out. But you can gently wash these materials, and especially a quilt like this, you could wash, and the surface dirt and things like that will come out, and it will be a lot brighter. Robin says, I helped my grandma make 2 twin size quilts like this back in the day, and you still have them. Robin, that's amazing. And I would love, you should send me a picture. I will happily share it here on our show. I do love sort of the random placement that they've used. I mean, in some cases, they didn't care that the colors were next to each other and things like that. I love this. I just absolutely fell in love with it when I saw it, and I needed to take it home with me from the quilt shop, or not the quilt shop, the antique store down the street. But so once again, this is one of the many treasures that I have recently picked up on my occasional, and sometimes not so occasional, trips to the antique shops here on my same street. I'm extremely lucky, and yet also uh, in a lot of trouble. So I love this one, and here's another one. And can I tell you, it came, this quilt, or these quilt remnants came bundled up in one of these types of bags, right? This is one of those, like, it used to have like either a set of sheets or something in here. One of these bags. I think we all have some of these in our collection. And so this particular quilt, if you can imagine, all of this stuff was jammed into this bag. And this one was a kind of a lucky find. My tip for you, if you are constantly searching for vintage linens and goodies like this one, you need to look on the floor. You need to look sort of on the grounds in an antique store, because there's some treasures usually in that area. Because what happens is they put the really high end or fragile things, like up top, but then at the bottom is sort of usually a bin, or in this case a bag. And I started looking at this a little bit yesterday, but I have not really opened this yet to take a look and see what exactly do we have here. And it's in pieces, I can tell you that much. And I didn't know that already when I opened it, but it is absolutely lovely. It is, to me, looks to be a somewhat English paper pieced or English paper piecing type method. And these small pieces were more than likely wrapped around a piece of paper or cardboard and then sewn together. But you can see here, completely hand sewn. Show you some of the back here. You've got all this hand stitching. And these little four patches are diamond shaped. And then you have these octagonal pieces that they are surrounded by. So what I have noticed in this quilt is that they are in groups of four. And so you have these four patches, and I'll just move that over a little bit so you can see. These four patches make somewhat of a block. And so you have, and then it looks as if they have just alternated which direction the colors go. So you have these two pointing, east west, and these two pointing north south, and then and that's how they alternate, across the whole quilt. And so you have the here again, you have these four black black and yellow, black and white fabrics. And it looks like this one is in reverse, and it is. Okay, so occasionally they have, either accidentally or intentionally sewn them upside down. But yeah, so here again, you can see these 4 blue pieces. That is how they've alternated them. North, south, east, west. So this, I haven't measured it. It's big, but it's not that big. And then so here's some more. Again, this piece here, I'm just gonna bring that up to the camera. See those white striations there? That piece is upside down. Okay, if we look at the back, the striations are on the other side, and this one is right side up. So I don't know if that was intentional, or if they could have been trying to mimic or copy the block on the other side. It's hard to say. Obviously, we're not in the head of the maker from way back. So, and something else to notice is there are a couple of different fabric types in here. So as you can see, this is more of a gauzy crinkle fabric that probably has some polyester in it. So this one here is not this is not a quilting cotton per se. It was probably from a garment. And you can also see that here on the edge. So just some interesting things to note. Also, surprise, there are some very bright yellows in here. And I don't believe that these were even that I believe that the maker at the time had just 2 different yellows at their disposal, and so started cutting the octagon shapes out of the brighter yellow, and did what they could. But then here you can see that they started using them in the diamond shapes as well. So very interesting. Some of the fabric is not sewn. We'll be very kind here and say that the the fabrics are sometimes not sewn in the best manner. There's quite a deep fold here in this one. And so in taking a look at what I have, it's very incomplete, and it's very lopsided. It does not. I'm just gonna hold it up for myself here. Oh yeah, it is very lopsided. I wouldn't call this a square by any stretch. Here, we'll take a look at. It's definitely got a very wonky edge, and like a big old section that looks like it hasn't been connected. So we don't even have enough here in this section to really even call it a completed quilt top. But there are 2 other pieces to this, and I think that there's more than 2, right? So here's a piece. Here's another piece, and I think you can see how they've been trying to do these in small sections so that they kept their continuation of their pattern, right? The east west, north south, and then north south, east west. So this block here, perhaps they attached it and then got discouraged because it was done in the wrong direction. So easily done. We can unpick that and fix it. Same thing with this one. And the other thing is we don't know if the maker had other people helping. Here's another way you can see that block is pretty straight. Where they've accidentally put the two east-wests together. So we have, a little bit of puzzling here to do, but we have sections that are fairly decent. And again, they also do change from the lighter, like almost butter yellow, to the golden yellow of this other piece. So, again, I think maybe they got discouraged, or perhaps didn't expect these colors to to be so dramatic against each other. But you can see a little bit of what they were trying to do with this top. And I love the fabrics. I think they're really amazing. Here's one that I just, is actually something that's come back in quilting, but it is a woven, and you can see this woven, how the plaid here is woven. It's pink. It's like a salmon pink with little green pluses in it. And of course, that's the weaving on the opposite side. So it's just as pretty in both directions. But, these woven cottons are a thing that you can find right now in quilting. And they're modern movement has a lot of love for this, and I have a lot of love for this because it's so textural. So again, this was this is one of those things where I had it saw it basically mushed up like this, and didn't realize how much of this was here. I'm quite pleased that this is here. Now, a lot of people will ask, Cheryl, okay, you bought it, you saved it, you rescued it, right? What can be done? What should be done? And what can you do? And quite frankly, on our Friday night video, I was showing another bit of fabric that I had recently picked up. And one of the things that someone on that show said was, how wonderful it was that I had, basically saved this piece, and possibly giving it new life, and honoring the maker, the person who had done this before. And I do believe in that. I do believe that I personally, who make things, I don't know if I would want to see my creations, no matter how half finished, end up in the in a bag on the ground, being sold for practically nothing. I mean, this is so inexpensive for how much handwork was here. And I do feel a connection to this maker, and I feel a connection to people, when I often wonder, like, what's going to happen to my things, what will happen to all of my unfinished works, right? And so in this case, someone decided that this was something that they were going to part with, and so I am happy to be its rescuer. Now, what do I intend to do with it, and what is the quote unquote right thing to do. The right thing. What is the right thing to do? And I would like to see what of this top can be put back together, and fit together in whatever way I can think of. But I also think that whatever I end up making out of it, right, whether it's a quilt, or just leave it as a top or whatever, I can I mean, it is mine now, right? So I do have the ability to do whatever I want with it. But I also feel like maybe if since this is not like a historical this is not a historical thing to save, right? It's not the first instance of this pattern. It's not there's no culturally or historically significant fabrics in here that I can tell. There's no attribution whatsoever, so we have zero information about the maker. We can look at its construction and say, well, it's averagely constructed. It is done by hand, but that doesn't mean that it is. And there are like the occasional piece is done by machine. So that's not to say that that it means that it can just be put in a scrap bin or made that it isn't significant to someone, right? And so there's this huge controversy right now over whether or not quilts that are in this condition, or that you find in a quilt shop, or that you find in an antique store, are they all museum pieces? And sadly, the answer to that is no. They're not all museum pieces. However, they are all teaching pieces, and they not only do they teach me, and this is obviously teaching me about this pattern, which I had not seen before, and that you can also see here, right? The little diamond shapes, and then the octagon in the center, sort of that snowball effect, right? If you're familiar with a snowball quilt. And their choice, right, of the east-west and the north-south for the directionals of where they wanted their little pieces to go. So I am learning. I learned about that. I learned about this as far as that maker, and it is something that I can see the ability for me to be able to put this together somewhat. So I would say that I would intend to put this quilt top together. Now, again, I don't know how flat it will lay, nor do I know how sturdy it may be, but I can see myself putting this little top together and quilting it and using it in my home or in my shop or in my studio here, as something, again, that I can use to learn. So there's also, when you buy vintage linens, right, and they do come in bags like this one, sometimes you are not able to tell if this has been in a smoking environment or in a very damp place, and it doesn't have any odor, so that is a good thing. I mean, it does have a very, very slight age, just the smell of age, but it doesn't have like that oh my gosh, this has been sitting in like a damp, moldy place. Okay. So I know I'm smushing this all back up. You're probably like, oh, Cheryl, please don't do that. But it's going to go back into its little bag, and I will put you together, little quilt. And I'm very excited about that as a project. I do try very hard to rescue only the things that I want to rescue, because I would be absolutely destitute broke if I rescued everything that I saw. Because here, especially in Paducah, there are so many. How are we liking this so far, my friends? What do you think of our projects, our little sample so far? I've got a couple more here to show you. Some of these were on Friday's show, and Friday I showed these. Now, we had an episode of Heirloom Afternoon talking about quilts that were from kits. And this is a good example of a cross stitch kit where the blocks of fabric were sold pre-stamped with these cross stitch designs, and then you would get other people, or you can have your whole family do it. You would cross stitch the design, and then you see here these borders. That was there for you to follow as far as quilting it. Now, they do have information down here on the edge, and it says designed by, and I've looked through here, and it looks like it's Nojae, Nojae, of Fairway in St. Clair, Missouri. This is a 50-50 poly cotton. So this has got some polyester in the fabric so that it is crease resistant. And then this is an 18-inch block. And then it tells you the lot number. And that was typically how you would order these. Now, one of the things is there are nine blocks here, and you can see that there is actually different color shading of these purple irises, which are really lovely and nicely executed. There's different shades, and I had somebody ask, were these done with a variegated thread, and the answer to that is no. These are very distinctly separate colors with starts and stops here on the back. So they were not done with different colors, but they were differently stitched, each one. Some were done in just a couple of colors. You can see also the different colors in green. And sometimes they were done a little bit lighter. And then you can see they've gone even into the very lights, into almost white. Now, this particular block in here is actually a completely different fabric, and you can almost see that here, a completely different fabric from the rest. I believe that this one, and as you can see, like even the design is not well stamped, okay? I believe that's because this has not been stamped. This is actually been copied. I think they knew that they did not have enough to finish the quilt with 9 blocks. So I believe that they had to make this duplicate because again, this outer stitching area is not the same, and the fabric is not at all the same as the rest. So, but they are all complete. I think there's just like 2 stitches here that need to be done. But I mean, they're just really well executed. And they're again just tiny little spot to fill in. I think they're just really magnificent. So, again, these people are after my own heart, right? They've got that little bridge attachment. They're jumping from place to place. They don't care. I love it. And so there are 9 blocks here. This again was at a local antique shop and was just again hanging out, clipped together at the top here by a giant safety pin. And these will eventually become a quilt, and I do intend to put this together. Oh, looks like I've got one stray block that did not get clipped in, so I'll have to do that. But again, very lovely, well done. They match my nails quite nicely. So I thought that these were really well executed. And so here's the other thing, right? The antique shop that I went to, they have stickers on all the items, and certain color stickers at the antique shop. You get a discount on certain days, and I happened to be there on the day that this particular one, the sticker was 50% off. So it was labeled $20 for all of these blocks already done. I got it for 10. So I guess, I was meant to have it. But again, these are very clean. They're not, we don't really need to do a lot of care. We do need to square these blocks up if I'm going to use them. And I can look to see about the label. Excuse me. It's not the dust. There's another quilt down here. That's the reason for the sneeze. This here where it says no J of Fairway. We can do some research on that manufacturer. So that's always something that can be done with blocks like this. So very cool stuff. That again was on our Friday night show. Also on our Friday night show, I showed these blocks. There were 2 baggies of of these blocks, 25 25 per baggie. And these are like an orange peel style quilt blocks. Once again, so someone on the Friday night show said that to them, this shape here, this white fabric, looked to them like a pair of underwear. So now I cannot get that out of my mind, where this here looks like a pair of underwear. And this piece is easily replicable for me to insert into these sections in order to join the blocks that I would have here. So you can see how this sort of star shape would start to come together. You'll see the star there. And then how these, would be very easily filled in, and then you can make rows and rows and rows of these blocks. This is, for the most part, all cotton fabric. I have not yet found any non-cotton fabric in here, and again, they are all hand pieced. These two bags were the bags were labeled $7 for 25 blocks. So that's to me for $14 to have all these hand piece blocks. Some of them need a good press because they've been in the bag a little bit long. I can very easily find a white cotton to make as my friend on the Friday night show called the underwear shape in order to piece these together. There's quite a few here. Whether or not there's enough to make a full quilt top, I can't say. I did buy what they had for these, and there weren't any left. So could there have been other bags of these? It's hard to say. I do love these fabrics, and some of them are quite, quite vintage. That is definitely a 30s 40s style fabric. But I don't see any shirtings or poly in here, so that leads me to believe that these are a little bit older. And they're in great shape. And once again, they do not smell. I could start up a scrap museum and partner with the Quilt Museum. Again, like I said, these are not, what they do is they teach us about the anonymous person. We don't know very much about them other than what they used as their fabrics. And I do love that there's the occasional solid in here. I'm also working on a 30s style scrappy look quilt. And just to see that they also threw in that occasional solid makes me feel a little bit better about my own choices as far as that goes. But again, we don't know anything about this maker. I think that once this top is completed, it would be kind of neat to see where it could go. There's even like here is like almost like a cheater cloth fabric. So just some things, like I said, that we get to learn about this anonymous maker. And that's usually what will happen, right? These blocks will either come to you via your family, your friends. You probably won't know who made them. So, And this one, again, comes in a bag like this. This is basically how I find them. And 9 times out of 10, I don't open it. I buy it sort of sight unseen. I kind of will maybe see what I am getting, but I don't usually open it. Now I have opened this. These are commonly referred to as penny squares. These are small pre-stamped embroidery blocks that the person would embroider with different colors in order to sew together in a theme. And this little adorable quilt top, which is mostly here and includes some of the leftovers, but there's not enough of this to finish the quilt, which is probably why it ends up in this lovely bag for someone like me to come along. And you can see here, there's even some pinned sections, so they're kind of letting you know how they wanted it to go. These can sometimes have been bought as a panel, but a lot of times too, they were, again, pre-stamped. You would purchase them and go ahead and stitch them yourself. So here we see a bunch of really sweet embroideries. And this fabric here, which has some polyester in it. I can just feel it. I don't need to do the flame test, I can tell already this has some poly in it. So again, here's another situation where we have this really super adorable project that this person started. And can I tell you, this one to me is super sweet. And as a redhead, I'm like, oh, look, it's a little redhead and a little brown-haired kid, and that's me and Charlie. And so that is not why I bought. I bought it because I had a feeling that there were a number of blocks in here that were embroidered. And this is another thing that I like to keep as far as a quilt, but I'm a big fan of this is the hand of the maker, right? And I like to see the hand of the maker and keep the hand of the maker. And so whether or not I keep these blocks together with this rather interesting polyester fabric, they are very sweet. And I think we counted on Friday that there are 12 blocks. 1, 2, 3, 4, yes. And they are 1, 2, 3 across. So it's 12 blocks total. Isn't she so sweet? But it's sort of like, are you showing us your underwear? Like, what's going on here? So, and at first I thought one of these kids had oh yeah, here. I couldn't tell if she had a horn or a telescope. And I was like, wait a minute, but it's a horn. It's not up to her eye. Anyway, these were very sweet. So again, another quilt that was just sort of smashed up in a bag, quite literally in a basket on the floor. So you got to dig. You want to find the good stuff. And these were very sweet. And I like I said, if I end up destitute, this is what I will be broke after buying. Okay. Oh yeah, there's more quilt blocks that fell on the floor here. So, all right, the last thing I have is it did not get this at Meijer. And oh boy, can I tell you, this is some stuff. Now, where was I when I bought this? I bought this at when I was in Shipshewana, Indiana. So in Shipshewana, the show was really wonderful, but there's it's a very Pennsylvania Dutch, Amish town, and of course, antique stores abound in this area of Indiana. And one of the things that goes along in conjunction with the Shipshewana Quilt Show is a vendor hall, barn. It's a barn, but it is full of antiques, sewing related antiques. And so and I'm sure if you've been to a major quilt show, you've seen the booths of antiques. They bring out, the sewing machines, and they bring out the quilts, and they bring out like the sewing related antiques. And so this was from a vendor who specialized in sewing antiques. And this particular quilt, once again, was on the floor. And so again, we can't stress the look at the ground. You never know what you'll find down there. But this quilt, it is a full quilt. And it was in the bin marked scrap, and it was marked $8 a piece. So there were a couple of quilts in this bin. This is the one that I bought. And now, the moment I picked it up, I could tell why. So, and that is because This quilt is pretty stinky. It smells. And, but after looking at it, it does appear to be in good condition enough for me to attempt to clean it, and I'll talk about that in a second. So let's take a look at it, and I'll probably need to stand in order to get this all in here. It was quite literally folded nicely until I put it in the bag. So the reason it's all crumpled is because I put it in the bag that way. Now, why would a quilt like this be labeled scrap? There's, first of all, the smell. It's pretty musty. Here's the, it's a pink 1930s quilt. It was labeled for $10. Now I bought it for $8. So here's the quilt, the type of blocks. It's fairly together, okay? It's mostly here. And, oof, is it ever musty as all get out. The back is not in bad shape, okay? No super obvious rips or tears. Stain, you can see the stains here, okay? Bunch of different stains on the back, and they don't necessarily go to the front, okay? So I'm not too worried about that. Some yellowing on the front, we can show you that here. Here we go. Okay, so we've got a kind of a big yellow stain right here. Not too worried about it. The musty smell is not like, it's just been stored in a very damp place, okay? Like a basement that got wet. Maybe this got wet and didn't quite necessarily get dried well. So a couple the very small damage places here. So there's like some fraying of the fabric here. But look at how sweet the quilting is. It is all quilted by hand. And then you have, again, some fabrics that are starting to disintegrate. And of course, because these quilts were very well loved and used, the most damage on this quilt is around the edge. The binding is practically worn away. And so even a new binding on this would work in order to make this a once again usable quilt. Little tiny stains that might come out if laundered properly. Now, when I say laundered, okay, and you can see the two different quilt blocks going on here. We have pinwheels in the corners, in the borders, and then we have sort of a pinwheel and then flying geese block. I don't know the name specifically of that block, but there's the block in general. Okay, so very nicely executed. I think that, again, we can see some 30s fabrics. I agree with the dating that's on this. Also, it is machine pieced. So just get you a little close up here. So again, the evenness of that stitch, that's a machine. There's a machine piecing going on in here. Some hand piecing, yes, but for the most part, we're seeing machine piecing. So, what do I mean when I say launder this quilt? So at home, I would be giving this quilt a good soak. If your machine has is top loading, if your laundry, if you have a top loading machine, you can put this into the bed or into the tub, and you can soak it in that style. I could also take this into my bathtub and soak it really well. Um, and what we're trying to do is just lift the surface dirt in the surface quilt, or sorry, the surface smell. Any of that mustiness, sometimes it's really in the fabric and the fibers, and we're talking about 3 layers, right? We have the backing, the wadding or the batting that's inside here, and the top, right? So we have a lot of dirt and smell and mustiness trapped in all 3 of these layers. So you really need to soak it. And you can use, again, if you're, because we don't have like real serious frail fabrics and rot, okay? So, I mean, the fabrics are in good condition. We can soak this, and then we can take this and try to get as much of the water out as possible and lay it flat to dry, and see if that will lift up enough of the smell. Because we do have also some stains and things like that, I would probably try a quilt, a vintage linen soap like Orvis, Orvis. That's a quilt, what they call a quilt soap. And it's, you also want to just look for a type of soap that's meant for gentle fabrics, because you don't want a high surfactant. You don't want lots of bubbles, and you want that material to just soak in, lift out what it can, and then be and be done. So again, this thing, whew, it's super stinky. But it was in such good condition. $8. Let me. It was $8. $8. Jerry's asking, can I use Lysol laundry sanitizer, or would that be too strong? I would be very careful about using something like that because of the age of the fabrics and the batting. Martha, Orvis is what we used on the horses as a bath. Yes. Okay. So the reason that many people swear by Orvis as a quilt or vintage linen soak is because it's gentle enough to be used on your animals. But also, this is also because, again, farmers used what they had, farm women used what they had, and that they realized that it was really good for their laundry. So Orvis is still sold today, and still also is actually sold as a laundry. Now, there are many things that can help get the smell of the mustiness out of this, and there are tons of Facebook groups dedicated to quilting vintage or working with antique or vintage linens. And many of them suggest plain vinegar added to the non-soapy water, the soak, to help lift out those musty smells. Another really good thing, and this is always true of anything that has been stored long term, is to hang it outside in the sun and let the sun help air the quilt out, heat the quilt up gently, naturally, in order to help degrade or decay the little creatures, the bacterias and things like that that are making this quilt absolutely stink. It is really, really smelly. So I hope that this has given you some tips on that, as well as to not be afraid to rescue a vintage linen, even though if it's unfinished. Again, you are honoring that maker. I am honoring this maker by having her quilt or their quilt on my in my possession, and I can't wait. It feels so soft and cuddly. I can't wait to try to have this in my home. My friends, do not forget, of course, to take a look at our website. Our brand new smocking book is out. Don't forget to stop by shop.muffin.com. And I will absolutely love to see you next Tuesday at 12 noon. So I hope you have a wonderful weekend, a very safe and happy Labor Day weekend. Perhaps you too will go to a vintage store, an antique store, and rescue some vintage linens of your own, or quilt blocks. So my friends, take care. Hopefully you have a wonderful day, and I will see all of you next week. Take care. Bye-bye.